Hang on, I've lost the Bible. Let me find the Bible, please. And I'll roar. Ah! Oh, hi. Are we starting?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like you to do something for me, if you would. Could you reach into your pockets, please, or your jacket, or your bag, and take out your wallet? If you haven't got a wallet, get your credit card, or some coins and notes. If you haven't got your wallet, pretend you've got it. If it's a Sunday, you probably would have. And just hold it in your hand, please, in front of you. As you hold your wallet, think of all that represents. Think of your earnings. Think of all you've spent over the last week, the last month. Think of your property, your stuff. Think of your financial plans for the future, your pension, your investments, your retirement. Now let me tell you about my brother-in-law, Richard. Rich is the same age as me. He's 33. He's got a good job in broadcasting. He's a broadcast engineer, and he's a great guy. And he loves money. He wouldn't say that, but he does. He loves money because Richard thinks money can do two things for him. He thinks that it can secure it can make him secure, and he thinks that it can give him joy in life as well. Security and joy. Richard thinks money can give him those two things. And actually, I'm tempted to think like that too. Even though I profess that only God gives me joy and that He's my security, I'm so often tempted to think, if only we had some more money. Before we moved here, I thought, if only we could afford to live in a bigger place and spread out, and when we have more kids, each of them have their own bedroom. If only we could put more aside for a pension, for retirement. If only. And then I sometimes think, well, I'm glad that we've got enough to do this. I'm glad that we've got enough money to enjoy life a little. We don't have much. We're students. I'm at Bible college. But we've got enough to, at the weekends, go out for a meal sometimes. Enjoy a glass of wine, a bottle of beer, relax. I'm so glad that we can have joy in life because we've got enough to do that. And I wonder if you think that way too sometimes. When you look at your wallet, you think of your finances, and you think about being secure in life, and you think about enjoying life. Just think back to last Saturday, or the last time you read the Saturday papers. How much of those papers are to do with money and finance and possessions? In the news, there's Greece, financial trouble in Europe. There's the motoring section, the property section, the finance section, and the business pages. I'd say 2/3, 3/4. It's about money, it's about stuff, isn't it? And that's what we read, that's what's interesting us. Well, let's find out what God says. We're in Luke's Gospel, and in chapter 12, from verse 13 onwards, where Jesus tells a story about money and possessions. Let me just give you some context. So if you're in Luke, look down to chapter 12 and verse 13. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." We don't know the exact problem. The likely story is there was a farm, there was some property, the old man died, 2 brothers or more. It may be that they were expected to keep the property together and farm it together. That was the ideal. But this one guy that comes to Jesus, he wants to strike off on his own, set up his own thing, look after himself. Or maybe his older brother, who's been in charge, is refusing to give him his share of the property. We don't know, that's the kind of thing. And rabbis were expected to adjudicate and arbitrate in this sort of dispute. So he comes to Jesus. "Jesus, tell my brother to divide the property with me." And what does Jesus say? Look down to 14. What's Jesus' answer? "Man, who made me a judge or arbitrator over you?" Jesus is just not interested in the question. What does he do instead? He tells a story that gets to the heart of this guy, and I think it gets to our hearts too. It gets to mine, maybe it'll get to yours. We've already read the passage, but let me give you an updated story, such as Jesus might tell today. And it's a story about Dave. When Dave was 14, he's got this memory, he had this memory of standing outside his house, age 14, with his family. They'd just been evicted. His mum was seriously ill. His dad failed to hold down a succession of poorly paid jobs. So there they were, outside their home, not knowing where they were going to sleep that night. And Dave remembered, later in life, he remembered looking back and thinking, that was the moment, age 14, that he decided he was going to make sure that he had enough money to enjoy life and to be secure. So age 20, David worked hard in school and got a great job, a secure job, in a local, in a national furniture company, in their warehouse and distribution centre. He applied himself, he worked hard, he was given responsibility, he began to save. Age 30, he'd been promoted to regional sales director. And he's married now, they've got a young child, and Dave's managed to save enough for a good house. They've got a house, they're paying off the mortgage in the suburbs, and he thinks all the time, enough to be secure, enough to enjoy life. That's his goal. Age 40, Dave has been promoted to the national board of the company, and they've earned enough. He's earned enough that they can pay off the mortgage. They've moved to a bigger house in the country, and they can do what they like, really. They can go on great holidays. They can send the kids off to good schools. Dave has made enough to secure his life. He's made enough to secure his children's future. He's made enough for them to enjoy life. That's what he wanted. One day, driving home from a day out in the country with his family, his kids are asleep in the back seats. He thinks back over his life. He thinks back to when he was 14 and when they had nothing. And he's thought about his hard work. He's thought about all that he's earned, all that he's been able to make money-wise, his wise investments, his plans for the future. And he thinks, we've made it. We can enjoy life. We do enjoy life. We're going to enjoy life. We've got enough to be secure. We don't have to worry anymore. I've set us up. We're secure for life. And he looked at his wife and smiled. And at that moment, he missed the speeding car careering towards them round the corner, and bang, hit them straight on. And they all died instantly. Dave, you fool. Is that what life was really about? Did you get security? Did you enjoy life, really? That's the kind of thing Jesus is saying with this story. And I want us to look down and notice a few things about this story. Here's the first thing. Look down at verse 16, please, will you? And what is it that is productive? What is it that is abundant? What is it that produces in verse 16?
The land that guys own.
The land.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rich. The land, his land. It's not him, it's the land. And I think that is Jesus pointing out that this guy's not responsible for his own financial success. It wasn't him, it was his land. Where did the land come from? God. God made the crops grow. And it's actually the same with us, isn't it? It's the same with me, it's the same with you. Okay, you may have worked hard, you may have worked really hard. You might have gifts and talents and charisma or a great idea. But who gave you those things? Who gave you your body, your mind, your creativity? Who gave you the ability to work hard? It was God. Maybe you were born into a great family and had great opportunities. Well, you're not responsible for that, are you? God gave you that productivity, that ability to prosper. Whatever we have, it's not from us, it's from God. Here's the next thing. Will you look at verse 17 and verse 18? Just look down and read through those two verses and count how many times the guy says I or my in those two verses. Just do that now. Count how many times he says I or my. Verses 17, verses 18.
Get 11, Joe.
11? Thanks, Rich. I got 11 too. Did you get 11?
10.
10, 11. 10, 11 in two short verses, a couple of sentences. The guy says I or my 10, 11 times. I think that just shows us that his focus was really on himself, no one else. My crops, me, my barn, my life, my enjoyments, my security, my future, my relaxing, my eating, my drinking. It's all about me. And I think this is what focus on money does to us sometimes. There's God. There's me. And when we're focused on security and the joy that we think money can give us, we think about ourselves, maybe our family, maybe our house and our car and our enjoyment of life. And those things really become, we're blinkered by those things, aren't we? Those things become the sum total of the things we think about. Our security, my family, my car, my enjoyment, my security, and the needs of other people. And God, these things just get blanked out of the picture. That's what tends to happen, isn't that the case? It's as if we're blinkered and we don't think beyond our own circle of concern, our own circle of security. Well, here's the third thing that we should notice in the passage, and it's in verse 19. This is what the guy says. He says, I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry. This guy thinks that his life belongs to himself. He thinks it's his own. It's a bit like last semester when I was doing an essay, and I got a certain book out of the library that I needed for my essay. I thought, okay, got it, put it down in my study next to my desk. I thought, I haven't got time to read it now, I'll read it next week. So I put it down there. And a week rolled past. I thought, okay, I've got some time, now I'm going to look at this book and see what I need to write for my essay. But then I got an email from the library that went along these lines. It said, Joe, you've had this book for a week, another user has required it. As you've had it for a week, you need to return it to the library immediately. Ah, Joe, you fool! I thought that I acted as if the book was my own, that I could look at it whenever I wanted. I had no urgency. But in fact, the book wasn't mine, and it was taken from me. And we think our life is our own, don't we? We tend to think as if our life is ours and to do what we want with, and fail to realise that actually it belongs to God, and He can take it back whenever He wants. God said to the man, you fool, you fool. This night your life is required from you. And the things that you've prepared, whose will they be? And that's the fourth thing that really we need to notice in that passage, that this man, this story, this man, all that he'd gathered up for himself, where did it go when he died? Didn't go with him. I've got a list here. It's a list of the 10 richest people in the UK who died last year. And it's got written here how much they left. Do you want to know how much it is? All of it. They left all of it. And isn't that the case with all of us? We can't take it with us, we leave all of it. Ages ago I saw a slogan, I forget where I saw it, but it stuck with me. He who dies with the most toys wins. Isn't that how people live sometimes? Brings me security, brings me joy. He who dies with the most toys wins. You fool. Then I saw it changed. I thought this is much more true to life, this is better. He who dies with the most toys dies. That's the truth, isn't it? And so the truth is, Jesus tells us in this story, you're a fool to base your life, your security, your joy on money and possessions. You fool. This night your life is required of you. Now, it's not a foolish thing to look for treasure, to look for joy, to look for security. It's not a foolish thing to store up treasure, but it's foolish to store it up in something that doesn't last and something that doesn't satisfy. And real treasure is found in God. He's the only one that lasts for eternity. He's the one that made us for Himself. Our problem is that our hearts just have an inbuilt tendency not to look to Him, not to be satisfied in Him, and instead to be satisfied in what money can get us, in the stuff that we can accumulate. And that's why we need Jesus, the one who's telling us this story. Jesus always had God his Father as his ultimate and only treasure. Yet the Bible tells us that he left the glory of heaven, he left that treasure, and came down to live and die for us and rise again, to change our hearts that we might turn our back on stuff and make God our treasure. Here's how Paul puts it in 2 Corinthians 8 and verse 9. How does it go? Somebody help me out. Though he was rich, thank you, Rich. Though he was rich, for our sakes he became poor, that we, through his poverty, might become rich. So Jesus really asks us this question with this story. He says to us, what are you going to base your life on? Will you base your life on stuff? On the security and the joy you think it can bring you? On money? Or will you base your life on me, the one who lived and died to bring you to God, your real treasure? Well, what will that look like for us? If we say no to Jesus, then we'll perhaps live a life like Dave. We may be more or less successful than him, but ultimately we'll be living for the security and joy we think money can bring. What will that lead to? That may lead to a very comfortable life now. That may lead to security, not having to worry about physical things. But in the end, where does that get you in relation to God, our ultimate treasure? Or maybe we could be inspired by a guy called John Lang. John Lang, he was the famous founder of the Lang Construction Company. And very early on in business and in life, he decided that his life was not going to be about money, but it was going to be directed towards God. He was going to have God as his treasure. And as part of that, he decided however much he earned and made in business, he'd live on whatever it was, £500 a year back then. And however much he earned more than that, he'd save half and he'd give half away, with the ultimate aim of being able to give away loads of money to God's work. And he was significant in the financial support of London Bible College, training ministers of the gospel, UCCF, doing significant student work around the country, and loads of other good causes for God's kingdom. However much his company prospered, his living standard didn't go up above £500 a year, or whatever that became in today's prices. So when Lang died in 1978, how much do you think he left? £371. That was his estate. The rest had been given away. He was rich towards God. Jesus says, what are you going to base your life on? Will it be money and stuff, or will it be me? Will it be your real treasure? And as we go forward, what are you going to do about it? Let me just suggest two things. Firstly, you've already been handed a sticker as you came in.
No way.
And this, as you can see, it wasn't meant as an insult. The little sticker is very small. It just says, "You fool." And I'd like to invite you to take that sticker and to take out your credit card from your wallet, if you've got your wallet in front of you, and to stick that sticker on your credit card. There's room for it. It won't obscure the numbers. It can stay there. And that's not meant as an insult. I'm not calling you fools. But next time you use your credit card, your debit card, whenever you make a purchase, let it remind you, what are you basing your life on? What are you basing your life on? Here's the second thing to do. Next time you read the Saturday papers, and as we've said, 3/4, 2/3, it's about money, it's about stuff, it's about finances, it's about our security and joy we get from things. Next time you read the Saturday papers, will you first take 10 minutes to instead get out your Bible and listen to Jesus? If you're not used to reading the Bible, I'd like to give you one of these Gospels and invite you to just have a look at that and spend 10 minutes reading that and talking to God about your real treasure before you think about your earthly treasures. Now as we finish, you've got your wallets, you've got your cards, your cash, whatever in front of you. Pick that up again, would you? Just have that in your hands. We're going to pray in a moment. I'm going to leave some space for you to pray and say what you need to God. But just think, with your wallet in your hand, where is your treasure? Are you storing up earthly treasure for yourself? Or are you being rich towards God, your real treasure? With your wallet in your hands, what do you need to say to God right now? Take some time and just talk to God. There we are. Then I pray.